Okay, should be recording now, so I will start with my presentation. So welcome everybody. Thank you for tuning in to this information session about the minor protein transition we have at the Haas Green Academy. Well, guessing that you're here, you're probably still looking for a minor, so it's my job now to try to convince you that this is a very interesting minor that you can follow here at the Haas. Some background information. My name is Mike van het Land. I'm a researcher at the Haas Green Academy, and I'm also a coordinator and lecturer for this minor. If you have any other questions you have at a later time point, you can contact me as well by the email address you can see on this screen. And also, we also have a promotional video for this minor. If you're interested in that, you can see the link in your screen now, and you can click on that. And it's a video we made with some of the students during the minor in 2022. So some background information about the protein transition itself. So the protein transition, in short, is actually the transition from a mostly animal-based protein diet to a diet with an increased amount of alternative, more sustainable proteins, such as insects or plant-based proteins, but also algae, seaweed, or even lab-grown meat. And during the minor, we'll dive into these subjects so that all the students can learn as much as possible about these different types of protein sources and all the possibilities and bottlenecks that are involved in the whole protein transition. It's a very broad subject, so I'm not doing this by myself, and I'm luckily supported by a lot of colleagues here at the Haas, and also a lot of professionals from the industry, most of which you will also meet during the minor. So why exactly this minor? Well, obviously, it's a nice way to gain a lot of information on specific subjects, as is with all minors. Also, the way to strengthen your skills, research skills, group working skills, but also for your self-study. And it's a great way to get to know the industry, as we have a lot of guest speakers and excursions within this minor. But I think the feedback we get mostly from most of our students is that it's a really fun minor. I mean, as an example, the first week of the minor is mostly focused on introduction and getting to know each other. We have a lot of excursions during this first week where the students and the teachers go out into the field to see how all different types of industry partners are dealing with the protein transition. And this is a very fun time and a great way to get to know each other. Throughout the minor, there are also different moments during which, as a group, we go out and visit companies that are involved in the protein transition. And during the end of the minor, we have a group protein dinner. Mostly this is prepared by the students themselves, so it's always a surprise what's going to be served to us. But this is a very fun way of finalizing the whole minor. So all in all, it's mostly just a very fun period, and a bonus is that you learn a lot as well. Going a bit more into the details from what you will actually be doing. So during the minor, you'll contribute to the whole protein transition because you are closely working together with a lot of industrial partners. Part of the minor, which is about half the focus of your work, is doing a group project with other students concerning a research question that has been submitted by one of the companies we work with. This is a very fun way of getting to know the industry, and also a nice way of supporting the industry in realizing the protein transition. Besides group work, it's also very important that you learn how to discuss the protein transition and see what's involved in the whole protein transition as a whole. And that's why it's very important to develop your own view of the protein transition. What is the protein transition? Why is it so important? Do I think it is important or not? Questions like that need to be answered. And this is mostly an individual project, which you will also be doing besides the group project. As mentioned before, we also have a lot of workshops and lectures, many field trips, and a lot of inspirational guest speakers. The thing that the students enjoy a lot is discussion groups. So this is something we have as well. Within the Haas, only with the students from the minor, but also discussion groups with different companies where we discuss the protein transition as a whole. What exactly are you learning? Well, as mentioned before, you're gaining in-depth knowledge on different aspects of the protein transition. And this is the protein transition throughout the whole food chain. So there's lectures which mostly focus on the primary sector involving the cultivation of different alternative protein sources. There's lectures on the secondary sector where we look into the processing of these ingredients and the production of end products. And there's also a lot of lectures that dive into the mind of the consumer, where we have a look at consumer behavior and see how we can stimulate the consumer into making more sustainable and more healthy food choices. A center point of the knowledge that you'll be gaining is, of course, proteins. So there's also a basic introduction on what proteins actually are and why are they really necessary. And I think a red line throughout the whole minor is actually sustainability. So throughout the whole food chain, we want to keep in mind why exactly is this more sustainable than the options we already have. And not only sustainability, but also feasibility comes into discussion, because not only should it be sustainable, but the companies working with these new ideas should be able to make some form of profit from their ideas. So this whole link of the food chain is something that we discussed during the minor. And during the minor, you'll also find out that it's mostly very complex situation and that it's always more difficult than you initially think. Some of the skills that you'll be learning is how to perform practice-oriented research. So this involves research that is directly applied into the field so that the company can actually go to work with this new data that you've been collecting, but also how to form your own vision of the specific protein transition. And as mentioned before, this will be done in teamwork during the group projects, but also self-study for creating your own vision. Some examples of projects that we've had in the past, just to give you an idea of the different companies that we work with and what kind of questions they had. For the primary sector, we've had a group that has been focusing on cultivating duckweed, in Dutch eendekroos, for human consumption. So this is mostly focused on the primary sector. In the secondary sector, which becomes a bit more technical, there's been projects on extracting protein from different sources, such as, for example, algae and seaweed, but also substituting chicken protein with insect protein and seeing what the effects on nutrition is, or measuring protein functionality in different types of protein ingredients, either plant-based or insect-based. Then there's also the different projects that more on the consumer side. How do we promote plant-based diets with the consumer? Very challenging question often, but also what kind of meals can we develop to make the consumer more interested in these alternative protein sources? In the minor handbook, there's two learning goals, actually. So these are the main focus throughout the minor. And what's important that at the end of the minor, the students have to be able to conduct the practice-oriented research into a specific part of the protein production chain. And they have to focus on more sustainable alternative protein sources. So there's no protein sources that we pick for you. You pick your own protein source as long as you can prove that it's more sustainable than the already existing sources. And it's important that you evaluate the sustainability aspects and the impact on the entire supply chain, while also maintaining a market-oriented focus, which is the feasibility aspect I mentioned before. This is the first learning goal. The second learning goal is the individual project. And during the individual project, the student has to present a critical and evidence-based vision of the protein transition based on sustainability aspects, impact on the sector and the consumer. How do we evaluate this at the end of the minor? So after 20 weeks for the group projects, there will be a final report accompanied by a presentation, and this will be the assessment for the group projects. And this is often a very fun day, as we invite all the companies for which we've been doing the projects, and then all the presentations will be on the same day, and we make a small event out of it. And for the second learning goal, the individual assignment, which will be assessed with also a short presentation, which we'll do only within the minor group. And this will be accompanied by a short oral assessment, which is more of a discussion moment, just to discuss your newly created vision of the protein transition. Some general remarks. So the minor is at the HAS in Den Bosch. It is a full-time minor from 2nd of September 2024 to the 7th of February 2025. The main language during the minor is English, and you're eligible for 30 credits once you've completed the minor. Also good to know is that there's no mandatory books that you need to order or anything. All the literature is either available online or we'll be able to provide it to you. For the entry requirements, actually just 2 entry requirements. You need the propedeutic certificate and at least 40 credits from the 2nd year. If you have any questions, if you want to know if you are eligible to join this minor or not, please send me an email with any of your questions. So how can I register? Well, for HAS students, the registration is already open online. I think for the other students as well. For the HAS students, you can look on internet and register via Osiris. And for non-HAS students, you can have a look on Kies op Maat. The link is below. If you search for protein transition, you'll find this HAS minor. For exchange students from outside the Netherlands, please have a look at the link below. This is a website from the HAS, where there's more information for how exchange students can register for the minors. And please also keep in mind that the deadline for the registration is the 1st of June, so the 31st of May. You can still register for this minor. So that was it for a short presentation of the minor protein transition. Are there any questions from the people online? I have to look at the chat. No questions in the chat. Are there any questions? Yes, Kjeld?
Yes, could you maybe explain to me how an ordinary week of this minor would look like, and then especially how many days a week the lessons will be given?
Yeah, good question. So this is different during different phases of the minor. In the beginning, there's more contact hours, of course. We start with an introduction week, which is quite intense, but then there's a lot of excursions and group meetings. Then after the first week, we start diving into the group projects. Initially, you'll first have to set up the project, so this will take some more time. And then you'll also be doing the individual assignment alongside this. I think you have to think there are 3 days in which you have to be present on the HAS, and 2 days where you don't have to be present on the HAS. This is online lessons. Typically, you have to think about, I think, this is off the top of my head, but let's say 40%, eventually 40% of your time goes into your group project and 40% of your time goes into your individual assignment. And then there's also 20% which goes into lectures and guest lectures as well. The guest lectures and lectures will be more present at the beginning of the minor, and then they'll phase out. So you have more time during the end of the minor to focus on your group projects and the individual assignments. Is this a bit clear, or do you need some more examples?
Yes, it's very clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I had a question.
Yes, Alyssa.
Because I live in the further south of the Netherlands, in Heerlen.
Yeah.
So it already takes me, I think, 2 hours to even get to school, or even more. So how do you guys, plan the class in?
Yeah, so usually, especially in the beginning, we do start just at 9 a.m. So this can be a bit early, maybe, if you have to travel that far. I don't think we've had students from the south before, and usually it wasn't an issue. The issues arise when we have excursions, which are further north.
Okay.
So this is something good to keep in mind, that it might involve quite a lot of traveling if you live further in the south. I don't know if this is an issue for. Do you have transport?
But of the train and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for the first week, we try to organize transport always for the introduction week, and for the excursion is later on in the year. Then we ask the students to go by train. But it is important to keep in mind that we have a lot of external activities as well.
Yes, of course, but it will be sad if the excursions were only booked in the morning hours, because then I will need to take one of the earliest bus and train, and then I hope I'll be on time. So it's a bit hard.
Yeah, I think it's good to get, the thing is, when we try to organize the excursions, we have to do that with the companies as well. So the companies usually let us know what times are possible, but normally we try to consider traveling time as well. So we won't have an excursion in the north of the Netherlands at 9 a.m., but we'll try to do this in the afternoon. So this is something we can definitely keep in mind when setting up the first excursion.
Okay, perfect.
But so maybe just an addition, we're currently still setting up the agenda of the whole minor, because we have to contact all these companies again individually. And if you are interested in a more exact roster of the minor, then it might be a good idea to contact me, maybe let's say end of April or in May. Then I'll have some more information on how the agenda will look like.
Okay, that's great. And I had another question about the inner. So for example, I'm more interested in the nutrients and how the body takes can even take in the protein that we're gonna learn about. Is that also in this minor?
Yes, definitely. So that's so the subject groups, we divided it into primary, secondary, consumer. This is quite generalistic, but food health is also an important part. So we have some guest lectures also from companies that are involved in the health sector, and they will let us know about protein absorption and how protein works in the body and why we need protein, and also the downsides maybe of alternative proteins for concerning health aspects. So yes, definitely a part of it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining. You have my email address, probably you will receive this as well. So if you have any other questions, please let me know via email, and then I can answer them for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good luck with choosing a minor.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.